Hey guys, Jeremy here with TacFix. Today we're going to look at a really good EDC belt option that I've been wearing for the past year. We're going to look at the black tactical belt from Core Essentials. Alright guys, so up top here on the bench we've got the Core Essentials X2 belt buckle and black tactical web belt. Now this brand does have a few different options. They do have some leather options as well as these webbed options. You can get this webbed in kind of a brownish tan color as well as black that you see here. Leather belts come in brown and black as well. So they've got a few different options. Now, like a lot of other tactical belts or EDC belts, inside of the webbing, you've got a layer of polymer that keeps the rigidity on this belt. And it's held up really well for me over the past year. Now, because this particular belt has that polymer layer in the middle, it's about twice as rigid as a similarly thick leather belt. So that is one thing that I do really like about this, is just how sturdy it keeps everything on my belt line. And overall, the construction on this is really well. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, like I said, this has been in use for about a year, so this is not a brand new belt. When it comes from the factory, everything's all nice and clean, but you'll notice there's some worn spots on this belt where it's gotten a lot of heavy use. I tend to be pretty hard on my gear, so you'll notice this one does show a little bit of wear, but overall this has held up great in the last year. One thing that makes this belt particularly different than most other belts is you'll notice there's no belt holes. And that's because of the unique design for how this belt buckle holds your pants up. Now, I don't know about you guys, but with most belts, you can find that at any given time when you're using the different belt holes, at least in the US, these are about 1 inch apart. So you've got 1 inch adjustment increments. So if you go up or down a full pant size, you've got some room to maneuver between the different sizes, but overall you've got a lot of gap between those two holes. Where if you find yourself, like I do a lot of times, you might be, if you've had a particularly big meal, or if you've lost a little bit of weight, or just if you're wearing a garment that's not as thick as other garments that you wear, switching from maybe jeans to a heavier work pant or something like that, you might find yourself between two of these belt holes. And then that's going to produce two problems. One, the belt's not going to be as comfortable. And two, it's not going to fit as well, which means your gear is going to sag. Now this is just a cheap 511 tactical that I found at a local gun store near me. When I bought this one I purchased about 1.5 years ago. It was about $30, so it wasn't a particularly big investment, and this is actually the third one of these belts that I've purchased. And the reason for that is because they wear out about every 6 months. I think the longest one of these 511 tactical belts that I had lasted for about a year. And before that I tried a couple other belts that I was similarly dissatisfied with. The problem with these is they sag and droop quite a bit, so your gear is wavering in and out of your belt line, and that really just does not lend itself to an EDC setup. You don't want to have your gear shifting on your belt line, and you certainly don't want to be using your hands to adjust your gear all the time, because that's a good way to give away that you're carrying. Core Essentials took care of that with the really, I think, quite ingenious way that they do this buckle. I've seen a couple other companies that have somewhat similar setups, but this one is by far the best one I've seen, and I've been very happy with it. Instead of using belt holes, what they have essentially is a ratcheting belt buckle, and it works very similar to a zip tie. On your feet end, you've got these little teeth here. And so as you tighten it in, it works very much like a zip tie, and it ratchets into place and then holds in. And you can hear the click as it goes into place and then stays securely in place. And when you're ready to take this off, you've got a little point right up here where you can manipulate this little lever and the belt comes right apart. Now, because of these little ratchet systems, instead of having 1 inch increments that you can adjust your belt in, these are about 1/4 inch a piece. So you get a much, much finer fit on this. I find that no matter kind of how your weight might fluctuate or what clothes you might be wearing, you can get an incredibly good fit on this every single time. So I really, really like that. Like I touched on earlier, the belt's also made out of great stuff. The nylon webbing on this is rated to withstand 500 pounds, and that's without the polymer core being factored in. I commonly will have 3 things on my belt line. I'll have a spare mag, my my pistol obviously, and then usually some kind of EDC knife. And I find that whether I'm carrying something smaller and lighter like this or a full-size 1911, this belt is more than up to the task. Something else that I really like about this is despite it being a nylon web, it is a very subtle weave. So from a few feet away, you're not really getting that this screams gun belt. And the same thing really with the belt buckle. This is very much like any other belt buckle you might have on a department store belt. So this also, it isn't that big Cobra clip that says, hey, I'm carrying a gun. So I do like that about this. Now, another really neat thing here, in keeping with the custom fit feel of this, the belt actually comes up to 54 inches. So you can size this anywhere from about 24 inches to 54 inches. They've got a guide here on the back where you've got the inch increments so that you can cut your belt to fit. Now, what they suggest is taking the actual measurement around your belt line and then adding 4 inches to it. And I found that that's a really good mark. So I have plenty of extra tail to tuck in. These particular belts right now are running about $60. I think I maybe paid just a little bit more than that when I purchased this one. But right now, most of the belts on their website are marked at $59 and change, so basically $60. And how well this is held up for a year, it's more than worth it. I have no doubt that this will probably last me for at least a few more years, as well as it's held up. So I have no plans to replace this anytime soon. In fact, I'm definitely going to be purchasing a new one of their leather belts going forward. Now, I've not had to test it yet, but this belt is listed to have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're unhappy with it for any reason, you can return it within that first 30 days and get your money back. And it also comes with a 1-year warranty. I don't know anybody personally who's tested that warranty, so I can't speak to the efficacy. But if their customer service is as good as their product, you shouldn't have any problems. Since you're sizing this yourself, the way this works is after you've cut it to the length that you need, you flip this little door over, and there are teeth that grab onto the belt to hold it in place. But this is also removable. So they have 3 other different designs of belt buckles that go with these X Series belts, and you can interchange them. They also sell for just a few dollars, I believe it's $2 or $3, a little hanger for your closet where you can hang 2 or 3 of these belts up and keep them, looking nice and everything. Now, we were talking about how durable this is. I'll kind of give you an idea here. Once you put this together and it goes on your belt line, you'll typically have, now I'm a lefty, so I'm setting this up backwards for most of you guys. You'll have to deal with me on that. And now I called your attention to some of the wear and tear that were on the edges of this belt. That is something that I would like to see a little bit more durable maybe on this. So that is one con that I have. But as you can see, this style of clip that I use, it does rub quite a bit on there. So that's most of the wear that you're seeing along the edge here is from these clips. But this belt holds its shape very well, even as loosely as I have this packed here. It's not even around my belt line and through my belt loops, and it's holding up my gear very well. And you can even then clip on an additional item. And I've had more on there than this, but this is typically what I carry on a daily basis. I'll carry my one mag, my pistol, and then my EDC knife. But this is fairly common. This is what my setup is. And it holds the weight very, very well. All right, so now as far as cons with this belt, there are a couple things that I would like to see improved. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like I showed earlier, there is a little bit of wear around the edges of this belt here. Now that is going to be from a lot of heavy use. With the style of clips I use, it does get a lot of surface wear here. So that's not 100% the fault of this belt. I would like to see it a little bit more durable, maybe a polymer-based glue used on here or something to kind of reinforce the edge. I'd like to see Core maybe implement something like that, maybe an improved or enhanced web version of this belt. The only other negative aspect that I have of this belt is because of the rigidity of it, the tail does kind of flop a little bit and it does hold open just a little. Now when you buy these, they do come with 2 little loops of fabric that you can slide onto here to kind of hold it down. And that's the only other negative thing that I have on this. Ideally, I'd like to see some kind of clamp built into this so you can just slide it in, like maybe a little clip right here where you can just notch that down, or maybe some more durable loops. The 2 loops that I had stretched out very quickly, so that is kind of one negative drawback. I typically will shift my belt along my center line just a little bit so that this is closer to a belt loop, so that's not been a huge issue. It's fairly minor. It's a minor issue, but it is something that I've thought about. Overall, though, this is the best EDC belt I've ever used. It's got a great fit. It adjusts well with the ratcheting system that it's got in there, and it fits very comfortably. It's also withstood a lot of heavy use, so I definitely feel like I'm going to have a few more years of good use out of this before I might need to replace it, which is more than I think you can reasonably ask out of a gun belt because of how much weight's on it. And overall, I do like the styling on it. I like that it's styled in such a way that doesn't scream gun belt, because the last thing you want to do is expose yourself as the guy carrying the gun, because not everybody's very pro-gun in today's culture, and not everybody will see you as the good guy that you likely are. So if you guys are looking for a new EDC belt option, I think this is going to be a great option for you. Like I said, I've been wearing this for about a year. There are some minor scuffs and dings here and there, but overall this has held up very well. It's done a great job at maintaining its shape. It's able to hold up all my gear and keep it very rigid on my center line, whether I'm carrying my smaller SIG P365 or if I choose to carry a full-size 1911. So this is a very durable belt. In years past, when I first started carrying a pistol on a regular basis for concealed carry, I used to cheap out a lot on belts. And that left me most of the time uncomfortable, unable to get a good fit on a belt, and this has really changed that. So I think if you guys wanted to pick one of these up, I think you'll be very happy with it. So thanks for joining me today and watching today's installment on TacFix. If you have any other questions, definitely leave them in the comments down below. And as always, smash that like button if you enjoyed today's video. Consider subscribing so you can see all the latest videos as they come out. Have a good day, guys.